We thank you for being a part of Shoulders of Giants, where we're teaching people and we're learning from giants in their industry. Today we have Jeb Blount with Sales Gravy, CEO of Sales Gravy, helping people become ultra high performers and giants in their sales industry. And we're excited to have you on the show, Jeb.
I appreciate that, and I'm going to give you an alternate pronunciation of my name. It's Blunt,
Blount,
and
okay.
yeah. So everybody who's a Yankee, like everybody who's from and when I say Yankee, I say that nicely. Anybody
Yeah.
that's not from the South, which is heaven, pronounces it Blount. But if
There
you're
we go.
you're south of the Mason-Dixon line and east of the Mississippi, it's pronounced Blunt. The O is silent. So, but you can call me Blount or you can call me Blunt. Either one of them.
Either way works. He's still going to help you sell some more stuff. So
That's
I'm
right.
excited to learn again. One of the first things I like to ask is, how did you get into the industry you're in? I know you do sales training, things like that, a big sales organization rather. How did you get into that? Was it something you fell into, or tell me a little about that?
It's a short and long story, so I'll try to give you the shortest version possible. But essentially, back in 2006, and this is right at the beginning of the recession, and I'm looking at you. You were probably what, 10 at the time, something like that,
That's a good guess, maybe.
So it was just right at the beginning of the recession. I was working for a really big company as a vice president of sales for a Fortune 500 company. And the recession hit us really, really hard. And I was put in a position basically where I had to make some decisions about what I was going to do with my career. Was I going to go work for another company or start and do my own thing? And so in 2006, I made a decision to start my own company called Sales Gravy. And then over those years, we've iterated as a company to where we are now, where we're a global sales training consulting organization. We do everything from deliver training both online and in person. We build integrated partnerships with companies where we come on site and we have our own people there helping their leadership team lead and accelerate sales. We do special projects like build sales onboarding programs and sales playbooks, and we do sales acceleration and sales performance audits. And we also license our content to companies who have their own trainers and want to teach things like sales EQ.
Perfect. So, back in 2006, when you were looking at, I guess, maybe the big picture, did you know you were going to be this deep into the sales training? Was this the vision, or has it kind of built to what it is today?
It was my vision was this is what we would do, that we would write books and build content out. And I couldn't tell you that in 2006 that I would have ever expected us to be as big as we are today. Back then we were talking about hundreds of thousands of dollars. Today we're talking about millions of dollars in revenue. And there's a big difference between those two things. And there's a big difference in building a company and growing it to that size. And when we began, we didn't have any cash, anything other than our good word. So we built the Sales Gravy job engine first, which created a permanent sustainable revenue stream for us. And then we started using the cash that we pulled off of that to continue to invest in the business. And it was a really good strategy. It slowed us down a little bit in the middle because it got so big. The job board part of our business and the recruitment part of our business got so big that it began to suck the life out of the training side of the business. But essentially from the very beginning, we built the company on the foundation of a continuous revenue stream from selling advertising to employers who wanted to hire salespeople, and then using that to build out the training organization. And today, the training organization dwarfs the recruiting organization. Even though the recruiting organization continues to be a solid cash cow for us, the whole idea long term was to create sustainable revenue stream and then build on that. And that's where we continue to focus on that. So we're now moving into the next level of what's the most predictable revenue stream that we can develop at the highest profitability, so that we can peel the cash off of that and then again move back up to the next level.
Absolutely. And excuse me, when you were starting that, obviously you got to go out there, maybe knock on doors, make phone calls, and get those first clients, customers. What did you do? Did you pound the phones? Did you use your sales experience? How did you build that up from the beginning?
When I left the corporate world, I was in a corner office in a really big, tall building with all kinds of luxury, flying around on corporate jets, company car. I had two assistants. I mean, life was really, really good. I left that and went and sat in a desk in my office in my home, and I started pounding the phone. And so you can edit this out. Sorry about that. I apologize. I've been going all day long. But I started just picking up the phone and dialing, and I would dial and I would call prospects. And when I started off, I was building the job board. So I'd call people up and say, "Are you hiring salespeople?" Sell advertising. I got in my car and I spent a year crashing job fairs. I would go to like a local job fair where they would have all these employers set up, and I would walk in and have these little flyers, and I would hand it to them and say, "Come post your jobs on Sales Gravy. Come post your jobs on Sales Gravy. Come post your jobs on Sales Gravy." And I got kicked out of a lot of them. Security would find me. People would tell on me, but I would pick up one client here and another client there and another client there. And once I started getting more clients, and then those clients started giving me referrals, and I turned those into more business. And I got into the habit of going to like these big conferences. So I would go to big conferences where I knew there would be a lot of booths. And the people that work the booths are the salespeople. The salespeople and the sales leaders, they always go to those conferences. So it might be a conference on tractors, but I would go there to meet the salespeople who were at their booths. And I built my list, and I built my prospecting list from those particular interactions, and then used that to call. And I did that pretty solid for 2 years. It was just me and the company. And I would pick up some training gigs here and there from I had friends and other people that were executives who had left my company, trusted me, and call me in. So I'd bring those folks with me. And so I'd get a few training gigs here, and then I would sell job advertising. And I finally built it up. It took a couple of years, until 2009, to really start moving the dial. And then by 2010, we were hitting on all cylinders. And that's when I first started hiring people. So, essentially, I started the company at the end of 2006. It took 3.5 years for me to hire my first employee. And before that, it was all me. And until late 2009, my wife started taking pity on me because I was working so many hours that she came in and started working with me. And, and then we just sort of iterated from that space. I mean, today we have 16 people in our company. And at the time that was unfathomable. I mean, I couldn't even imagine having that many people.
Absolutely. So, 11 years down the road, and, here it was just you, it sounds like, for the first, you said 3 years, pounding the phones, driving the vehicle to job fairs, shaking hands, creating lists, contacting people. So you were doing a lot of, some of that sales stuff, some of the stuff you probably teach in, your sales EQ and all of your courses to get everything started to where it is today. And that really, stands out to me because I think, maybe a lot of, small business owners, they want to, be ready and all, running and gunning in the first year and, bring all these employees in. And they're, sometimes they're not ready to wait 3 years and pound the pavement to, make that happen. And, I see that a big trend and, giants in their industry. And it's something that I think a lot of business owners need to, I guess, kind of take account of.
Well, I think that for a business owner, you have to recognize that everything's predicated on cash flow. So if you don't have cash flow, nothing matters. You can be the greatest person in the world. You can have the greatest idea in the world. You need cash flow. And cash flow can come from a couple of places. One, it can come from investors. And if you bring investors in, then you're giving up control over your baby because the investors want to make their money. And if you bring in investors, you've got to dance to their tune. And if you do it the other way, which is you're gonna bootstrap it, so you're going to create cash, and then you're going to use that cash to invest ahead. If you do that, then yeah, you got to pound the payment. You got to work on it. You got to run lean. I mean, you don't spend money on anything, and except for the absolute necessities. And you go out and sell. And when you sell, you make some money, and you put it in the kitty, and you keep going. And this is one of the problems for a lot of entrepreneurs is they're chasing VC money, cash, or angel investors. And the problem for most people, unless you're connected, you got a killer idea, and you got some money in your nest egg, most of you aren't going to get funded. I mean, you're just not going to go find a VC company that's going to fund you. It's just the truth. So And most of you aren't starting companies that VC companies want to fund. So most small businesses that are starting out there, it's an individual that's got an idea. They want to make their life better, and owning your own business is a great way to go. You'll always make more money owning your own business, but you got to realize that it's going to be 3 to 5 years of grind. I mean, absolute grind. Most businesses fail in the first year. And then there are some sectors like restaurants where the number of failures in the first year is incredible. Most businesses don't make it past 3 years. Very few businesses get past 10 years. So when you think about it, if we started 100 businesses today, 5 years from now, less than 10% of those businesses would still be alive and working. So when you begin, you got to be thinking to yourself, how do I stay alive? How am I working to keep my business alive and create cash flow? And the only way that you're going to do that is to go sell stuff. You have to go sell things. And what a lot of entrepreneurs get into is that they do all of the busy work. Like they're setting up their business. I got to get my website. I got to do this. I got to do this. I got to do this. You got to know money. You got to know cash. And one of the pieces of advice that I give to people who are aspiring entrepreneurs, I want to start my own business, is keep your day job. Keep your day job. Your day job, it creates cash flow. So you go to your work in the morning, you come home at night, you have dinner with your family, you work until 3 o'clock in the morning, you get 3 or 4 hours of sleep, and you do it again, and you're going to miss 2 or 3 years, and you're going to have to sacrifice like crazy. And don't tell me about work-life balance, because you're not going to have a work-life balance. But if you want it that bad, that's what you're going to have to do. And that gives you some breathing room so that you can focus on your business, because I can tell you there's one thing that will kill your business, that is you being desperate. If you're desperate, you will fail. So you've got to have that padding. You've got to have that ability. But if it were me and I were starting any other business, unless I came up with some killer app and there's some VC company out in San Francisco that's willing to give me a couple of $1 million to see how it works out. But if you're like the rest of the 90% of the world that's going to have to go out there and bootstrap it, what I would do and I would be thinking about is what am I willing to sacrifice in the short term in order to build? And trust me on this, it's not hiring people, because that's going to be your most expensive expense. And you're going to have a very, very hard time hiring good people and keeping good people when you're trying to run the business at the same time. So you have to build into that. And it's going to take you some time to get there.
Yeah. And I think that's the piece a lot of business owners miss, is they're not ready to put that work in and go out there and get those sales and to, kind of accelerate that business. And, during those, 3 years where you were just grinding and getting 3 hours of sleep and barely seeing your family and just putting in that grind, was there something different, mentally, or that you would remind yourself or that you did differently that kept you on your goal to where you didn't quit and kind of go back to corporate America?
I think that everybody has to find what it is. Like there's something out there. Simon Sinek calls it why. What's your why? And it's what motivates you. What's your desire? You have to tap into that. What do you ultimately want? And mine's a little different. I mean, I don't have like this magic story of, I had this one thing out there that I really wanted more than anything else. I mean, essentially what I had was a fear of failure. I did not want to fail. I did not want to have to go crawling back into the corporate world and face all the people that I knew in the corporate world were looking at me. And part of it was jealousy that I was getting out and going to do my own thing. And part of it was hoping that I was actually going to fail. And there were a number of people that were actually hoping I would fail. And for a few years, I'd say at least for the first 4 years of my business, I would wake up in the middle of the night in a cold sweat thinking, man, I'm going to be working at Walmart, because I'm going to fail in this business. So my big driver was I didn't want to fail. Like I did not want to lose, and I would do anything not to lose. And that made me absolutely stone cold relentless. I worked until there was nothing left. So I think that for the entrepreneur, you have to figure out what it is that drives you, what it is that you want, what it is that your desire is. Why do you want to build this business? And, it could be independence. It could be because you want something better for your family and your kids. But I know this. I throw ice water on people all the time. But, when I was building this business, it took me a solid, I'd say 7 years of really hard work to build the business. I missed a ton of my son growing up. A lot of it, things I regret, but I missed it. Now, my son today goes to a private college that we pay for 100%. He lives a life that very few, kids can live. And he's a really, really good kid who makes great grades and has, this beautiful future that's ahead of him, and hopefully we'll leave a legacy for him down the road with the business that we built. But for him to have the opportunity that he has today, I had to sacrifice then to create that. And if you're going to be an entrepreneur, you got to make that decision. What am I willing to sacrifice and give up? Because more times than not, it's what you're willing to give up, not what you're willing to do, that's going to help you reach your goal.
Yeah, yeah. And, I guess that just, that screams to me is, just don't give up. I spoke with someone else, Brad Lee from VT Training, which maybe Brad, but he was saying the big, differentiator is just not giving up. That once you let them dark nights and them cold sweats stop you and you go back to that day job, that's the differentiating factor between the two is, do you have that fear of failure to not want to go back and to keep pushing forward? So, yeah, I definitely agree.
I think Brad's right. I mean, I think you've got to burn the ships. I mean, that's essentially what you did. I mean, when I started my company, I was, older than a lot of entrepreneurs. I mean, if I were looking at a 20-something and saying, I want to go in my own business, I'm like, now's the time. I didn't start my own business until I was 39 years old. I mean, so I was way late doing that. And I mean, there are a lot of people at that age that do that, but it was late. So when I made the decision to move out of the corporate world as an executive and start my own company, I essentially at that moment became unemployable. And when my first book got published, no one in the corporate world would hire you because they just look at you and they say, well, you're a person that got out. And if you come back in, then you'll end up leaving us again because you won't be happy here. So I think there's some of it you have to do that, to burn the ships. I think the other thing is, don't quit your job. I mean, I'm a big fan of don't quit your job. You want to start your own business, start your business, keep your day job. You're going to be so much better off if you've got money coming in, and you got to figure out how you're going to build the business in the short term while you're working. It won't be optimal. It won't be perfect. It's not going to be everything that you want, but so much better to have money in coming in. I was lucky. I spent 20 years in the corporate world. I worked in big executive jobs. I had stock, I had savings, I had a whole lot of money, but I put everything my family had saved over 20 years on the line to build my business. That's not optimal either. I mean, that's kind of stupid if you think about it. Like, it's a huge risk.
Sure.
You got to be willing to do that. And I think you also have to get people around you. I mean, one of the reasons that I think, so many immigrants come to our country and they build these amazing businesses is because they come here with a different mindset. They burnt the ships. They left their country. They came here because it's a land of opportunity. And then they go lay every single thing in the line and on the line to build, and they get all the people around them and their family working for them. So these are and I want to look at these entrepreneurs. I mean, these are small business people all over America that are grinding it out every single day, but they create most of the jobs, most of the opportunity, most of the economic viability happens in America because some entrepreneur does that. But if you just go look at immigrants, look at how they come to the country. I meet them all the time. I met a guy in Houston. He came over from Egypt, moved to LA, did not speak English. And he was it was so bad. Like, his story is so funny because, like, it's some movie. He didn't even know anything about America. He moved to Compton. Okay, so it's a kitchen guy, right, in Compton, like, and he can't speak English. He gets a job and he parlays that into getting enough English so that he can drive a Uber. Then he drives a Uber. Then he buys up a couple of other cars, and then he's like figuring out LA. He's like, this is a tough place to make it because there's so many people here. Houston's got a lower cost of living, and I can raise a family there. So he picks everything up and moves to Houston. But now he can speak English. And today he's got a fleet of 17 cars. I just happened to ride with him in one of them. So he's got 17 limos. He drives people all over Houston. And think about all the people that he employs, everything that he's spent. But if you just listen to his story, it's an amazing story. And I got the entire story in the back of one of his limos, right? This dude grinded it out. I mean, he didn't have a choice. And he got here, by the way, on a lottery system. I mean, he and his best friend from school both applied to come into the U.S. And it took him, a couple of years to get a yes or no. He got a yes. His friend got a no. So his friend's still in
Wow.
Egypt. He's here. He took advantage of it. How many people in the United States right now, how many Americans, natural born Americans, don't have what it takes to do what this cat did, right? I mean, you got
Yeah.
everything. You already had the opportunity. The success was already in your lap. All you had to do is pick it up. This guy
Hmm.
came over and took it from you because he was willing to do the things that you were unwilling to do.
Yeah. I agree, and I'm with you with the immigrants because they work harder, they're more focused. The family kind of helps each other. Where as you said, people in corporate America were kind of like crabs in a bucket, wanted you to fail, wanted you to just fall out so they could kind of rub it in your face. And immigrants look at it completely different. And you're right when you say that grind, that hustle. Are you willing to do that? And typically the answer is no. I mean, you always have a lot of people that say, yes, I'll do it. But when it comes down to the nitty gritty, I guess that's kind of the deciding factor. So,
Yeah,
um,
there's a guy in my town. He's a multimillionaire, and I admire him as a business person. And he's in his 80s now, and he's I mean, rich, like money, all the money he wants to spend. He lives a great life. And having a conversation with him, I was at his office and like, the same conversation you have with me, like, how'd you get started? Like, I'm asking the questions. And this is how he started. He said the first, I don't know, 7 years they were married, they lived in 17 different houses. He was in real estate. He would buy two houses. He would put one for sale and he would live in the other one. And he would be fixing the one up that he was living in, work at the same time. He said, I didn't care which one sold, but I would sell one of them, then move into the other one and buy another house. And
wow.
and then he started building out rental properties that way. So he would be living on. So most people aren't willing to do that. I mean, you think about it. I mean, I look at my own wife and go, would you move to 17 different houses? But he married the right woman. Like he married a
Yeah.
woman that was willing to come along with him and do
Yeah.
that. And because
Hmm.
of that, he has an empire that he's able to pass on to his kids. And
Yeah.
I had a kid that came to me just a couple of weeks ago. He was looking for advice on being an entrepreneur, and I was telling him this story because he wanted to be in real estate. And I said, this is the thing. This is how you do this. Go buy two houses. Go buy two crappy houses. Go buy two small houses. Live in one. You got to pay you got to live someplace, right? Work on
Yeah.
both of them. Put them both up for sale. And it doesn't make a difference which one sells first. Take the money, move to the next one, parlay that into the next house. And you do that for 5 to 10 years and you're going to be set. And by the way, you're 23 years old. I think he was 23. He was driving an Uber. No, he was driving a rental car van. And I said, you're 23 years old. You bank it all. In 10 years, you'll be richer than everybody around you, and you'll have the freedom to do anything you want to. But you can't wait. Like you can't say, well, I want a stereo, or I want the latest gadget, or I want to live in a cool apartment, or I want to drive this, or I want to drive that. Drive something crappy, live in something crappy, take all your money, invest it back in you. Go back to what we said at the very beginning. Cash flow is everything. You got to have cash flow. You got to have cash flow. You got to have cash flow. And you pay attention to cash flow and you invest and you sacrifice, then you can get what you want. Because I don't want to give up my house. I want to give up my mortgage. I want to give up this. I want to give it. I want this. I want this one. That's why you don't reach your dreams. That's why you're not a giant. That's why you live the mediocre life that you're in right now. Because that now, if you like that life and you're happy with it, that's cool. But don't complain about it because you chose it.
Yeah. Absolutely. And the people that complain about it will tell you they love their life and I love my job and I love the people around me, and then they're at work complaining the whole time, and they live in this la la land to, I guess, maybe comfort themselves and not being in reality and not being, hey, I'm not living the life I want. It's my fault. Maybe I need to address it and change something.
It's true. And look, I loved where I worked. I loved my job. I loved my company. I loved it all. Sometimes every once in a while, life throws you, it throws you a curveball. I mean, we went through the worst economic downturn of my lifetime. And I grew up listening to my grandfather tell stories about the Depression. So I know how much that impacted him because he spent his whole life talking about it. Our recession wasn't nearly as bad as the Great Depression, but it was on the edge of that. And I didn't see it coming. I would have been in the place where I was for the rest of my life. I was happy. There is nothing wrong with picking a career choice and being great at it and doing something that you enjoy doing. But if you're going to sit around and talk about one day when you own your own business or when you are the boss or when you're getting those things, you can't live I don't know, a complete life having the dream and not actualizing the dream. Do it or
Yeah.
don't do it. And if you don't like what you're doing, then you either have to make a choice. I'm going to pick up the mantle, and I'm going to go out there and do my thing, or I'm going to figure out how to be happy where I am and be the best at whatever I'm doing. So I don't
Yeah.
want to make sure I'm not disparaging anybody who works in a company. I mean, I've got employees who work for me, and they're great, wonderful people, and I'll support them in anything that they decide to do. So there's nothing wrong with working for another person. What's wrong is working for someone and not being all the way there, working for someone and deciding that, well, I'm not really happy with this, not happy with that, not happy with this, so I'm going to sit around and complain about it. Stop complaining.
Yeah.
If you sweep floors, be the best floor sweeper. If you are a salesperson, be the best salesperson. If you are going to be, a CFO, be the best CFO. But pick your path and go down that path. And if you get a curveball, you got to make a choice. I mean, I had a choice. I could go back into corporate America. I could start my own business. And I thought about being an entrepreneur for a long time, and I decided I was going to take a chance. But when I took the chance, just like those immigrants, baby, I burnt the bridges, man. I
Burnt the
burnt
ships.
there was no place, nowhere to go back. So
Absolutely.
that I think is the key. So so much of it's about choice. I mean, so much of it is about that, but a lot of it's about getting out of your own head. All this complaining and all this crap. We live in this country where anything is possible. And I know
Yeah.
we look on the news and you see all the strife and all this people fighting, and I can't even get on Facebook anymore because everybody's
Right.
complaining. It's so negative. In the middle of all of that stuff, we're the only place in the entire world where tomorrow you can say, I'm going to start my own business and put a stake in the ground and do it, and nobody's standing in your way. So it's
Absolutely.
the land of opportunity. Take advantage of it.
Yeah. Now, kind of going back to, what you said is keep your day job. And I know you say also cash flow is king, and that's going to run your business and help you grow. And obviously, you're in sales, helps, salespeople train. Would you tell someone to maybe go get a sales day job while running the business at
Heck
night to
yeah.
maybe parlay that in? Or is it just,
Yes, absolutely. I mean, if you can sell, that's the beautiful thing. If you can get out there and sell, and you can be successful at that, most good salespeople, if they get their day arranged the right way, have enough space and enough margin in their day to be able to take the commissions that they get. You can, especially if you get a sales job that has a base salary, which most sales jobs in this particular market are going to have that. I mean, in the recession, you run into a lot of straight commission jobs, but those have mostly gone away. So get a job that's got a base salary, live on that. And that, I mean, if I go all the way back into my 20s, the reason I was able to build the business that I have today was that's how I lived. I took my base salary and my commissions I saved. I saved every commission, every bonus check, everything I ever had. So all of that was in the bank. So when I got a curveball, I was able to go in and use that money. But you can do exactly the same thing. And then because you're selling, you're going to have time in your day in order to, like, let's say you're in real estate, or you're doing, you want to start an insurance company, or you want to build your own killer app. Whatever the case may be, you'll have time and space and margin in your day to be able to do that. The key, though, is that you have to get your day totally organized and absolutely dialed in so that you have that time. Because don't forget, you're still working for somebody and they're paying you, and you owe them. This is an integrity thing. You owe them performance for the money that they're giving you. And by the way, if you're blowing that performance out, you're making a whole lot more money. Now, here's the problem with that. You get really, really good at selling because you're really, really motivated to build your business. And then you get comfortable because your commission checks get so big that you forget about your dream. And that happens
yeah.
sometimes.
Yeah. And I guess, at that point, maybe if you get to a point where you're making so much money and you're happy selling, maybe the dream is now just kind of do that. And, I guess as you said, it's not everybody's dream to build a huge business and have, tons of employees and things like that. So, just, as you said, it depends. If you're happy where you're at, sweet. If you're complaining, if you're negative, make the change and go after what you want to go after.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
Perfect. So I know we're running out of time here, but one last question. If there was, some kind of information or something that you could have known 2 years ago or 10 years ago that would have accelerated your business career or would have helped you save a ton of time or a ton of headache, is there anything like that that you would change or you wish you would have known that you could leave with some of the entrepreneurs out there?
I get that question a lot, and sadly, I don't have the like a magic wand question for or answer for that. And here's why: the way that I built this company was iterative. So we built and then we learned and we built and then we learned and then we built and we learned and we built and we learned. And along the way, we made a ton of mistakes. So 80% of the time we were failing and 20% of the time we were doing well. It's no different than, for example, you hop on an airplane in New York and it flies to LA. The airplane's on autopilot most of the time. And in fact, most of the time, it's not even on course, because what's happening, it gets off course because the wind blows it here or it moves here, and then the autopilot gets it back on course. And that's essentially how we ran the company. So, I mean, I could go back and look at many, many dozens of mistakes, money that I've wasted, decisions I made on the fly. I mean, we were just talking about when I made a $1,200 decision last fall that we on a piece of software we never used. And you do that. You just make some mistakes.
Hmm.
But when you're moving fast, I mean, that's the most important thing. So what I would tell people is, it's not something that I knew that I didn't know. I just knew it, and that is fail as fast as you possibly can. Make a mistake and recover from the mistake. Make a mistake and recover from the mistake. But don't make mistakes that sink your business. So the one thing that we've done very, very well, we've not made the one mistake that then blows the entire business up. And by the way, that one mistake is usually when you spend more money, then you have cash flow. So we haven't done that. But it would be so tiresome to try to go back and say, wow, this is the one thing that if we hadn't done this, or if we did do this, everything's been a learning experience, and everything has helped us get better. And there's for me, I just think that's the most important thing. Is I don't think that there is a one thing. I don't think there's a magic pill. I don't think there's any of those things. I can tell you that the magic pill for business is cash flow. You don't have cash flow, you're going to fail. It's going to
Yeah.
suck really, really badly. And that doesn't mean there aren't days where, like when I first hired employees, there are a couple of months where I didn't get paid. Like I had to pay them first. Um,
Hmm.
but I'm just talking about, you got to manage that first. Cash flow comes first. Everything else is second.
Yeah, absolutely. And honestly, part of what I take from that is always be learning and just failing to get better. I think a lot of stuff, and obviously you're in sales training, so obviously want to train, want to get better, see the importance of constantly doing that. And I think sometimes, people get so complacent that they forget to educate, learn, and continue to move forward. So I appreciate your time and everything you've taught us today. I mean, cash flow, and just persistence, and really going out there, will help you be a better business owner. So Jeb Blunt, if you're in the South, that's how you say it. Jeb Blunt with Sales Gravy. We appreciate you for being here. If there are any salespeople, anybody out there, how do they find you? How do they get into your programs? How do they learn from you?
Pretty simple. Easy way to find us is come to salesgravy.com, salesgravy.com, salesgravy.com. You can find, tons of stuff, articles, free courses, all kinds of things that you can take there. It's the most visited sales website on the planet. You can find me at Twitter at salesgravy, on Facebook at salesgravy, on Instagram at salesgravy. You can check out my YouTube channel at salesgravy on YouTube. Check out my podcast. Just type in Sales Gravy or my name, Jeb, Blount, pronounced Blunt, on iTunes or Stitcher, or just go to my website and go to my podcast, or just type Jeb Blount podcast in, Sales Gravy podcast in. And then, of course, connect with me on LinkedIn. It's the place where it's the business hub. It's where everybody connects, and just let me know that you heard me on this podcast.
Beautiful. Well, you guys got it. Connect to Jeb. He'll definitely help you get your sales, become an ultra high performer. Also, go get his books. He's got some great information out there. So again, Jeb, I appreciate your time today. We look forward to learning from you in the future, and I hope you have a great one.
Thank you, sir. Have a good one.
Thank you for watching IMR on YouTube. For more digital marketing videos, subscribe to our YouTube channel. And for premium content, visit us online at infiniteMediaResources.com. Thank you for watching IMR on YouTube. For more digital marketing videos, subscribe to our YouTube channel. And for premium content, visit us online at InfiniteMediaResources.com.